Hi. Hey. I am Crystal Arthur.
I'm Kingston Arthur.
Woo! Yeah. And this is our live pandemic proof your income workshop in our functional faith group. If you're seeing this and you're not in our functional faith group, please join it. It's on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, hi. Subscribe and like this, please. If you're watching on Facebook, then let us know you're watching. Tell us hi, where you're from.
What's up?
You can tell us like any questions that you have about money. We might answer them on in this workshop, and if we don't, then we'll just do another workshop about those questions.
That's right.
Okay, so yeah, say hello in the comments. Hit hashtag replay if you're watching the replay so that we know that you watched it, and share it with somebody. Sharing is caring. So in functional faith, we help you to experience the divine all the time in your money, your marriage, your family, food, feelings, and fitness, despite any dysfunction or doubt. All of this is birthed out of our own dysfunction in our lives, the research that we did, the time that we poured in trying to get our act together. We're sharing with you.
Yes, we are.
So how do we do this? With empathy, education, and empowerment. We help you get from the fruit to the root of whatever's holding you back from experiencing all that God has for you. So today we're talking about money and spirituality and how those two are entangled. Entanglement is like a word that's from like quantum physics. Don't worry, we're not going to get into quantum physics today. If we did what?
I don't know. It's pretty dope.
Yes, it'd be
Quantum
pretty
physics.
dope if we could completely go there, but that's for another day or another person to explain to you.
Pretty easy to connect quantum physics to money.
Well, yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying there, the reason I brought it up at all, and you'd probably be able to explain it better than me, but I'm going to take a crack at it, is because entanglement is a concept in quantum physics that I'm going to butcher right now. If you're familiar with it, then you can post in the comment and educate us all. But basically, like two things, it's some form of matter. Like, is it like an atom?
I know quantum physics.
Oh my gosh! Like they can be like completely super far apart, and like that they've tested it.
Oh,
and
no. Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yes, an atom
can be like split.
Yeah, which causes a big explosion if that happens. But basically, they can take two parts. They can take two parts of an atom, and they can take it on two different ends of the world.
Yes.
And they can move one, and the other one will move with it.
Yeah.
Which is
because
crazy.
They're entangled, and we're not going to explain that well.
Connected.
But it's true, it's really weird. It's like a phenomenon.
You can look up the split slit theory as well, where like they shot atoms at the thing, and then
I'm familiar with that.
People were looking. It's all kinds of crazy stuff.
But it's crazy stuff, and
science.
It's all on this it's scientific, but it's on this like energetic level that we don't fully understand yet, and
we're just in the observing phase.
Yes. But it's true with money and spirituality, and that's the kind of the point that I'm trying to get at here is because don't laugh at my notes, dude. You didn't write them. Gosh. Because these two things are very entangled. Our spirituality is going to play a role, but it's not just a role. It's not just a part. It's entangled completely with our money, our finances,
right.
And we're not getting. Many of you guys that are watching, you are Christians. You've grown up in the church, and you might be familiar with what a lot of Christians call the health and wealth or prosperity gospel. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, but the Bible does have a lot to say about money. The Bible talks about money a ton. Why? Because these two things are very entangled, and how we can see. We can see a reflection. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. Before we even get into like the topic of what we're doing today, why we're all here, how to pandemic proof our income, talking about how to earn and save more money. We have to talk about, you can't play. It's like, that's distracting. I don't want to see myself there. We have to talk about, we have to investigate. We have to investigate our beliefs around money.
Discover.
Kingston, y'all know this man is so distracting to me. I'm easily distracted myself enough. But we need to investigate our beliefs surrounding money.
Yeah.
Our beliefs surrounding money are impacted by our family of origin, the family that we grew up in. It's impacted by our culture, and it's also impacted by our church, right? Some people grew up in a church that was more of that health and wealth or prosperity gospel, and so your beliefs around money are shaped by that. Some people grew up in a church that kind of pendulum swung from that and went almost more into like a poverty theology, where
poverty gospel.
Yeah, where it's like you're more holy if you go without.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were going to say something about that.
No, I mean, I could preach, but
yeah, it's hard.
I'm trying to chill
y'all
out.
know we can talk a lot, so we're trying to run through a lot of material in a short amount of time. Keeping us concise will be impressive.
I'll just be the comedic relief.
No, you're going to help me with this. Yeah, so a lot of it, so we have very differing views, and the culture, maybe you grew up and you looked up to or wanted to emulate celebrities. And so your mindset is success or wealth looks like having these fancy cars and these nice purses and all these different things. Or maybe you grew up wanting to emulate Mother Teresa and you grew up reading Shane Claiborne and you're like, no, I want to live in poverty. I want to live with the poorest of the poor. And so that's kind of more what your image of success and a wealthy lifestyle looks like, being, rich in your spirit in that way. And that's what you think is that. So we have to first investigate what our beliefs are. So what's the first thing? We're going to kind of try to do a little exercise here together. What is the first image that comes to your mind when we say wealth? If you're watching, let us know in the comments. We'll be able to see and share your comments. Even if you're watching the replay, we'll see your comments. So what's the first image that comes to mind for you? What comes to mind for you when you what's like a picture of wealth?
I've got a mansion just over the hill.
So he's a good old church boy, don't you? Okay, so the first image that came to mind for me was what's it called, like that duck? That's really the cartoon duck.
You talk about the Scrooge McDuck.
McDuck. Yeah, that was
from DuckTales.
That's not from DuckTales. Is that from?
Yes.
I don't know. Anyway, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
the three ducks and their uncle's really rich.
What's the first image that comes to your mind when you think of greed?
I don't want to share mine.
Okay, we didn't practice this. We gotta run through stuff before I don't trust what. What's the first image that comes to your mind when you think of millionaire?
Okay, I'll say this: a sleazy businessman.
Okay, that was for greed.
Yes.
Okay, millionaire for me was Regis. Do you want to be a millionaire?
Mine was Bruno Mars.
Okay.
Want to be his.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that's billionaire, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. What is the first image that comes to mind? Wait, I already read all. Do you think $1 million is a lot of money?
Depends on the context.
You're such a weirdo. What do you think of billionaires? What do you think of? Well, I guess those are too specific, and that could get. What do you think of billionaires?
Yeah, I think that they have a lot of money.
You make everything so difficult. Okay, well, for instance, what do you think of $1 million? For some people, people are like, yeah, that's a ton of money. That's a lot. If I had $1 million, my life would be made. But when you break it down and really think about it, I think about how much what came to mind when I wrote that was how much money do we need in retirement, right? Is $1 million really a lot of money?
That's what everybody says, but now people aren't saying that anymore.
Because when you think about inflation, when you think about taxes that most people agree are only going to go up, especially with the stimulus checks that we look forward to, $1 million isn't going to be a lot of money. And
Nope.
Even today, even $1 million today, if we were to retire today with $1 million, I mean, think about how much you need every year just to live off of, right? Mm-hmm. Just with your income, your current income, and then multiply that by how many years you want to be in between the time you retire and the time that you pass away.
And put a inflation
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So is $1 million really a lot of money?
It's not.
Do we think that billionaires are greedy? Do we automatically assume if they have accumulated that much wealth that they have to be greedy? Because how would you even get to $1 billion and not be greedy? You would have given it all away by then.
If I were to think that they were greedy, then my thinking would shift towards, if you have $1 billion and you're keeping it, then you're greedy.
Right.
You could get to a point where you have $1 billion and not be greedy, but if you get to that point and you're keeping it, then I think that's how people think. To think you are greedy.
Right. Yeah. So these are all our beliefs, right? These are the things we want to investigate.
I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, these are the things we want to investigate, though. We just have to investigate them, non-judgmental. Just think about your thoughts. Think about your thoughts, and you can kind of take it from there to begin to think. Are these causing mental blocks for me? Are these thoughts actually serving me and serving others? Or are they strongholds, really? I think that they're kind of holy money thoughts, but are they actually holding me back from what God is calling me to do and be in the world? So it's a mental blocks I think a lot of us have who did grow up in the church or who identify as being Christian or a person of faith in general, is this idea of or this, and the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. And if you saw my Instagram reels or my story, my Facebook story, the irony in the comments, I put yes, I know the irony. If you didn't realize the irony, the name of that song is actually like The Love of Money, I think. And so I never knew that was the name of the song either. I'm sure my parents know, but anyway, I get that that's ironic, but the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. So what do we do with that? That kind of, I think, is a stronghold, or not a stronghold, but a mental block for a lot of us. And that's the first verse that comes to mind. I should ask, what is the first word that comes to mind when I ask, when you think of a Bible verse about money? For most people, that's the first one that comes to mind. But we weigh that one really heavily.
Mine is the parable of the talents. That's the first one that comes to mind for me.
We weigh that one really heavily, though. Most people, that's the first thing. Even though there's the Bible's replete with verses about money, and they're not all negative. They're about stewardship, right? The Bible talks a lot about stewardship, and for a lot of us, it's in provision and how God provides for us in a providential way as a Father who's loving and gives good gifts, and that's talking about the Holy Spirit more than anything, but that God provides. And so you can't sing during this. But is money the root of all evil? What does that really mean? What is evil, right? For many of us, we think, okay, money is the root of all evil, and we just think about that when we think about and we think about in the church how a lot of churches have taken advantage of people and their money, just asking to give, send your money, and you'll get a miracle. We need more money.
There are some churches who will say, money. They don't say it like this, but they'll say, money is the root of all evil. Or have you talked about
it? Yeah.
Okay. So they'll talk about how money is the root of all evil, or the love of money is the root of all evil. And then they'll say, therefore, give us your money.
Yes. And I think really our generation and the younger generations, we're not really tithing anymore. The people who want to give their money, a lot of people are giving their money directly to a nonprofit organization that is
more in line with their beliefs,
and more in line, in alignment with their beliefs and values. And a lot of people in our generations are not really wanting to put money towards building campaigns. They're not really wanting to put more money towards what the established church wants to do.
Right.
We're not saying that we agree with that. We're just saying these are the thoughts and these are the things that we're seeing and that our culture is navigating through right now. The money is the root of all evil. Well, okay. The love of money is the root of all evil. And we assume that that's talking to rich people, wealthy people. Well, I mean, compared to the rest of the world, most Americans we're living in the 1%. Most of us are wealthy in comparison to the vast majority of the world, right? So you've heard that before, though, right? But think on this. Who spends more time obsessing about money? Someone who doesn't have to worry about where their next meal is going to come from. Someone who doesn't have to worry, isn't anticipating the next paycheck, but isn't worried about what would happen if they passed away to their children and their family, or someone who is trying to make ends meet, someone who's trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, someone who's turning down the air and chastising their kids for leaving the lights on all over the place, people who are striving and needing, people who are in lack are more focused on their scarcity than people who have wealth are focused on accumulating more wealth. Generally speaking, that's true.
Yeah.
Just think about it. How much, I mean, I know personally, I get so caught up in scarcity thinking and being concerned about how are we going to make ends meet. So, I mean, evil is really more about control and power. Why did we crucify Christ? We wanted him to be something that he didn't want to be. Jesus was all about emptying himself. Jesus wouldn't be tempted by power and control. Money is power, and it can be wielded for good or for evil. Money is, Jesus was about surrender, and most people, when it comes to money, it's about claiming.
Right.
Like, what's the opposite of surrender? I'm trying to think of that word. Fighting and
aggressive.
Fighting for what's mine and needing, and I need. Money is an amplifier of what's already there.
Right.
So if while we are poor or
here,
lower income or even middle income, living paycheck to paycheck, if our focus is on I have to work, I have to earn, it's up to me. Yeah. I have to, if I don't, then it's a reflection of who I am. I have to get this promotion. I have to do this. I have to do that. If that's what's within us already, then that's what's going to be amplified when we accumulate more money. If it's about so money is an amplifier. Money is an equalizer, though, as well. Okay, so money allows us to have equal opportunity. So either it's going to amplify what's already there, our greed and our obsession with taking care of ourselves and taking care of our own.
It could also amplify the good.
Or it's going to amplify the good and that power is going to be used to be an equalizer to help other people, to make more opportunities for the next generation, make more opportunities for your community.
Right.
Money is a mirror. It reflects back to you where you are spiritually. So you can look at your budget. You can look at your not just your budget, but where you're actually spending your money, your account, and you can see, what do you value in life.
That's biblical.
It's a mirror. It's reflecting on the outside.
His treasure is, and there his heart is also.
Yeah, it's showing you on the outside what you value on the inside.
Right.
But when we look at the Bible, we see Abraham, David, King Solomon. They were wealthy. Some of them, and they made mistakes and they did things that were honoring to God. We learn from their lives and their stories today, and it wasn't about their wealth. It was about who they were, right? Solomon ended up, he was the wealthiest man to have ever lived, is what the Bible says, and he made a lot of mistakes. And he writes about how money is vanity. Everything's just vanity.
Right.
Like what is money? What is life? But he was also the wisest man, right? And he didn't ask for money. He asked for wisdom.
Yeah.
And then Jesus, he said, what is the baby? But I don't know where I'm going to lay my head tonight. A fox has a hole,
birds
have nests. I don't know where I'm going to sleep tonight. So Jesus lived a life where he didn't have a lot of money. But does that necessarily mean that we shouldn't have money? Well, people were funding Jesus's ministry. There were disciples that had so much love, and they saw what Jesus was doing, and they and understood as much as they could.
Right, like you're Lydia.
Yeah, and I have Lydia written down. She was wealthy, and so she gave to Jesus's ministry. So she empowered what Jesus was doing. She used her power and for good and for righteousness' sake.
Right.
And then even after that, we see in the book of Acts, Luke is writing to Apollos, who we don't know exactly who Apollos is, but it seems like he's someone of affluence.
Well, that wasn't Apollos he was writing to.
That wasn't Apollos he was writing to. You want to say who he was writing Theophilus.
Theophilus. Yeah.
Yes, those are names, similar names. But someone of affluence, and we see people giving what they have away to share and make sure they have enough. Well, you can't give it away if you don't have anything, right? And they weren't giving away what they had so that they were then in poverty and need and needed somebody else to get to them. They were all sharing what they had. They were offering up what they had to be used for the good of others. Well, the more you have, the more you can give. Mm-hmm. The more that we are stable and secure ourselves, the more we have to share with others out of our abundance. Right. So let's see here. Am I on the right track? Making sure I'm keeping up with my notes. So it's all about our mindset. So why? We have to ask ourselves why. Why do we want to pandemic-proof our income? Why do we want to talk about why is it worthwhile to talk about wealth? Why even take this time to do this? If you recognize that it's fear, that you want to earn more income, you want to save more money, you want to pandemic-proof your income out of fear or discontentment or comparison, you know what? Instead of don't beat yourself up about it. We are human, and people have dealt with these fears from the beginning of time. Instead, think those thoughts, forgive those thoughts, and just gently turn away from them. Repent. Repent is a turning, a changing of your mindset. You've investigated your thoughts, your beliefs around money. Now repent of them, which I think a lot of us, our connotation with is like, repent. It's no, just gently turn away, acknowledge them for what they are, forgive those thoughts, and thank them for showing you where your heart is, where your mind is. And turn towards truth, God's truth and goodness and beauty. A passage that I use to do this is Matthew 6:25 through 33. If you're watching this, feel free to close your eyes and just let God speak to you right now. This is a workshop, so we're doing this together. Okay, this isn't a short little thing. This is a workshop, and we're gonna introduce this together. So close your eyes and listen to what God says. That's why I tell you to not worry about everyday life, whether you have enough food and drink or enough clothes to wear. Isn't life more than food, or your body more than clothing? Look at the birds. They don't plant or harvest or store food in barns, for your heavenly Father feeds them. And aren't you far more valuable to him than they are? Can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And why worry about your clothing? Look at the lilies of the field and how they grow. They don't work or make their clothing. Yet Solomon in all his glory was not dressed as beautifully as they are. And if God cares so wonderfully for wildflowers that are here today and thrown into the fire tomorrow, he will certainly care for you. Why do you have so little faith? So don't worry about these things, saying, what will I eat? What will I drink? What will we wear? These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers. But your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. Seek the kingdom of God above all else and live righteously, and he will give you everything you need. All right? Let that be God's word to you as we go on and talk about these things. Let's carry that energy and that spirit into the rest of this workshop, okay? So how do we live righteously in the area of money? Hearing that, knowing that, being in that spirit, how do we now go forward and be good stewards and be prudent in the area of money? We just still staying in the space of investigation, right? Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're moving on to intent. Okay, what are our intentions? How do we focus our intentions? We've investigated our beliefs. Now, how do we focus our intent? Okay, our intentions. So, what are your intentions for your money? Right? I think a really good way for us to, I don't know, maybe you've never thought of this strategy or this in this way, but budgeting is actually setting intentions for our money.
Right.
That's why it's so important when we're budgeting. We are putting intention behind our money. We're saying this money is going to go here. This money is going to go there. We're giving every dollar a name, a place, a path to follow, and we're setting intentions with our money.
Right.
So it's really important that when we are budgeting, that we don't lead with our expenses, because that will that will just end us up with if this is like a line of the break even point of like $0, when when our check comes in and then we're paying our expenses, that just puts us right back down to zero, right? And sometimes a lot of us we have debt, so we're trying to get up to this break even point. But if all we're ever doing is getting to break even, then what are we left with? Zero. If our focus is always on our expenses, whether that's paying back what we already owe, or making money and then having enough, but putting our first line item is our expenses, then we're focusing on zero. Zero isn't going to get us anywhere. Zero does not protect us from poverty. Zero still keeps us a slave to our lenders,
Mm-hmm.
because when the rains blow and a storm comes, we don't have anything to protect ourselves. We're not building our house, our financial house, on rock when we're focused on zero. So we can't lead in our budget with our intentions on our expenses. We need to lead with our savings.
Right.
So the first thing that we do is, and personally, if you are a person of faith and a Christian, I believe that we believe the first thing that we should do is set 10% aside to give to God's work.
Mm-hmm.
So for if you have a church home, then hopefully it's a space that you trust their leadership and that you feel comfortable giving to your church home. I think that if you how do I put this? If you are subscribed to a church, if you are attending a church, if you're watching their YouTube videos, maybe, and you say, oh yeah, I worship in this way, I worship, you listening to their sermons, that's my pastor, but you're not giving to that ministry, then you're probably that's not actually your pastor, because you're not letting them shepherd you. You don't actually trust them, and that's okay. You just need to acknowledge that and know that you're not actually submitted to a spiritual shepherd. Just acknowledge that and be honest with yourself, because if you are submitting to them and you trust them, then you would feel comfortable putting your money towards what they believe God has called them to do, and the way that you believe God has called them to do it. If you don't trust them in that way, then I would encourage you to find somebody that you do trust in that way, because otherwise they're never gonna, if you don't give them authority in that area, they don't have authority over your relationships. They don't have authority. I'm not saying somebody is really uncomfortable with this right now. We are all under the authority of somebody. Okay, we are all under the leadership of something. So I believe that we should trust someone who says that their main calling in life is to just listen to the Lord and to cast vision and just be in attunement. Most of us have a job, most of us have a family, most of us have a lot of other things to do. I like having somebody that their main job, what they focus the majority of their time and energy towards, is hearing spirit. And so I think that makes sense. We have some people leading us in every other area of our life. We have somebody that we listen to when it comes to how to be a good parent, how to be a good spouse, how to spend our money, but we don't have a spiritual authority.
Right.
So I didn't mean to spend a lot of time there, but if you don't, then that's okay. What are you passionate about? What do you feel moved to have an impact in the world? First, give your money there, because I do believe it's a principle of generosity, and we don't give to receive, we give to give. Right. We don't. Yeah. So anyway, that should be the first place. But then after that, we should pay ourselves before we pay anyone else. We give to God's mission, And then we pay ourselves to protect ourselves and to save and to be good stewards. And so I think that should be, between those two things, 20% at least of our income. That's just a good principle to start off with. And then the rest of what you have, that other 80% goes to your expenses and your and spending, like your expenses and what, play money. I don't know, took all the rest. So yes, budgeting is setting intention, putting intention towards all of your money. The next is interest. This is the next pillar that we're going to talk about, interest. So interest, you might immediately jump to, what's the first thing that comes to mind when we say interest? Let us know in the comments. Before we get into like interest, like money interest, I think we need to talk about having an interest, taking an interest in learning about money.
Right.
Because most people just think it's boring.
Yeah, or useless, or I don't have enough money to really learn about money, or
do you find learning about money fun? You can be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
I think learning about money is super exciting because it's stuff that I've never known, that we weren't taught in school, and it can help people.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like this is functional faith, right? We love helping you. We love helping you. We have all these different pillars and all these different ways that we can help you with eating healthier, with dealing with your feelings, and
practicing spiritual disciplines.
Learning your triggers, being a better spouse, being a better parent, getting more fit is coming soon, and all these different areas. But guess what? You can't. It's hard to eat healthy. It's hard to find a counselor. It's hard to see a functional doctor. It's hard to do all these things when you don't have income.
Right.
When all of your time and energy and money goes towards just making it, just getting by. And so learning about money, and taking interest in learning about becoming financially literate is a really big part of how to pandemic-proof your income. Because there's so much we don't know that we're going to teach you some of it, but we can only scratch the surface in the time that we have here. Some good spaces to begin is a YouTube channel called 7 Figure Squad. It's by our mentor, Matt Sapala. He talks about how to become a first-generation cash flow millionaire. Because a lot of people want to be a millionaire on paper. They want to have a net worth that says that they are worth $1 million. But that can go away really fast. So we kind of talked about a little bit when it comes to retirement. How much money do we really need to live off of? Is that money... we're going to get into that more later, but there's a difference between being a net worth millionaire and being a cash flow millionaire, knowing that you have $1 million coming in.
Right.
And we need to get to that point. Why? Not so that we can say that we're a cash flow millionaire, not so that we can have fancy things, but so that we have an abundance to help other. What makes you mad? What makes you mad in the world?
You're on fire.
Like you can make a difference. You can make a difference when you take interest in learning the money game and learning how to be a better steward of what God has given you.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the money that you have, but your time, your talent, your energy. How can you steward this better to have more cash flow so that you can overflow and pour out into the things that make you mad and sad in the world, so that you can be a force for good, right? So there's the 7 Figure Squad, and we shared one of his videos for our last Functional Faith Friday. Every Sunday he talks about money and faith. He's a Christian man. And also Robert Morris has books and a sermon series that we think are good when it talks about money and spirituality as well. They're good spaces to start before doing a deeper dive into financial literacy. But now talking about interest, making interest on your money. Making interest on your money is talking about not just going to work to make money, but having your money make money for you. That's what we want to get into, okay? Like that is the beginning. That's just like a piece of how, the rich get richer, right? We want to be rich, and we don't want to build our financial house on... I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, we want to begin building our financial house on values and principles, okay? Not on a get rich quick scheme, not on investing our money here and investing our money there.
Not on whatever to the moon.
You're more familiar with those faces than I am. But we want to start with values and principles, right? But then eventually we want to get to a space where our money is making money for us. But we're going to talk more about what that actually looks like later. So stick with us. Okay, let's see here. So the next thing we want to talk about is we talk about interest. Take an interest in financial literacy and your money making you interest, right? But we're going to talk more about that in more depth later. But next is income. Okay, income. So, Kingston, do you want to share our story about income?
Yes. So Crystal and I we're going through a season where no matter what we seem to do, what we seem to cut, we were just not making, we just weren't making ends meet. And it was really rough and it was really hard. And we ended up going to a financial advisor, and we were thinking he's going to help us, he's going to look at our expenses, and we bring our bank statements and we bring, our income and all this kind of stuff. And he looks at
our budget.
Yeah, we think he's going to look at this and he's going to tell us what we need to cut, even though we're like, we don't know what else we can cut. Maybe he'll see something we don't see. He looked at it. He said, well, you don't have a budgeting problem. And we're like, what? He's like, yeah, you don't have a budgeting problem. You don't need to cut any more expenses. You have an income problem. You're not making enough money. He's like, there's nothing else for you to cut. And we're like, oh, okay. That was pretty eye-opening for us. That got our attention. So that kind of is where we begin to think about, okay, so what can we do? What can we do to earn more money? What can we do to make more of an income? And so we started thinking about business, and we started thinking about what we could do to get into that. And Crystal is doing something. Segue.
Oh, segue. Yeah, I know, but he told us, I wasn't completely listening because I'm trying to screen share in a second here, but he was like, he looked at me and he was like, so what do you do? Did you say this part?
No.
He's like, what do you do? And I was like, I stay home with our kids. We have 3 kids. And I don't know, Zoe was really young.
I don't think we had 3 kids then.
I might have been pregnant then.
Maybe, yeah.
I can't remember. But and I was like, I stay home with the kids. And he was like, but you have your master's degree? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I believe in like staying at home and all that stuff. I'm not trying to, I can't remember exactly how he worded it. He was an awesome dude, but he was like, he was very gentle and respectful. And he was like, I'm not trying to say, I don't know what God's led you to do. Just looking at the numbers, you can't afford to stay home. You have to go to work. That's basically what he said.
Yeah.
He might have worded it way better. I'm sure he worded it way better than that. But he was just like, you have to go to work. You can't afford to stay home. Like, you do not have a budget problem. Like, this isn't about not going to Starbucks, which we already weren't doing at that point very much. Like, he was like, this isn't about cutting back little things. You won't make it. Like, you don't have enough at the end of the day. And so that was like, ugh. Because mind you, we both have bachelor's degrees. We both have master's degrees. And he was like, you have to work. So you don't have a budget problem. You have an income problem. That's not everyone's case. There's plenty of people who I've heard tons of stories where it's like, we paid down this much debt in 1 year and it's like $30,000. It's like, so
we can't do
I've heard people say that they paid down as much debt in 1 year as what we were making in that year. Like, so I'm like, that's not possible. That's not cutting back. Like,
right.
Like, we already have our parents' accounts for Netflix and stuff like that. Like, that's not going to make a difference. And so, so let's talk about that a little bit more. Maybe you're in that same place. You don't have a budget problem, right? I mean, you can maybe do better with budgeting. It's still going to be like, right, setting the intention. And that's always good to have your money have an intention. But like, maybe you have an income problem. So like, let's just break that down a little bit. So let's see if I can share these screens. Let's just think this through together. Okay, here we go. Top paying careers. So what it comes down to a lot of times is that you don't have a budget problem, you have an income problem. So now you have 2 choices. You can go back to school, right? You can go back to school and you can get another degree that's going to earn you a higher income, or you can get another job. Okay, you can get a new job altogether, or start another job, like 2 jobs, 3 jobs,
4 jobs.
If you go back to school, what are the degrees that are going to pay the most? Well, let's see here. We got petroleum engineer, chemical engineer, nuclear engineer, actuarial mathematics, and electronics engineering. I'm pretty sure all that involves math. I'm not going to school for that. Okay, which is personally, maybe that's you. Do you, boo? That's awesome. Like, but these are the top earning degrees. Okay, so if that is appealing to you, then you could do that. But for me, in my house, that's just not going to cut it. So let's see what else. Let's see what else we can learn together today. Here, let's see. Sorry, I'm looking through my 25 highest paying careers. So I was the highest paying careers. And let's look at this together. The lowest paying majors. Early childhood education. This is what I was going to go to school for. What I ended up going to school for was, let's see, theology and religious vocations. Yeah. So I also considered going to school for elementary education. My initial plan was to do 2 years at Bible college and then transfer to a local state college and study elementary education. But look, this is mostly the people that I'm friends and family with. This is where we are. Most of our network is in these areas: human services, studio arts, social work, teachers, performing arts, elementary education, theater, family and consumer sciences, language and drama education, special needs education.
I don't know a single petroleum engineer, but I know just about every single one of those categories.
Right. So what do we like? That's tough. That's where most of us are living. Okay, we're mostly all in a similar position. So let's see. Sorry. So so going back to school for most of us to earn a higher income isn't going to be it. We're mostly all in the lower paying industries and jobs. But what is a higher paying industry? Let's see here if I can find the correct one. I think this might be right. This it? Nope, that's not right. Kingston, can you talk about, while I'm getting this, can you talk about something?
I can sing a song.
No, please don't. No one wants that. Here we go.
Oh, you found it really quick when I started singing.
Yeah, that helped. So here are the highest paying industries, okay? So we have retail and wholesale trade, okay? Well, retail and wholesale didn't, do very well with the pandemic. Utilities, natural resources, entertainment, that really took a hit with the pandemic. Renewable energy is doing great, but that probably is one of those engineer jobs. Aerospace, that's one of those math and science things. Agriculture and mining, education, communication, real estate and construction, manufacturing, healthcare, tech, and number one is financial services. Interesting. So let's see, stop this. But how much money do we really need, right? We probably should have led with that. How much money do we actually need? Because as we talked about earlier, is $1 million actually a lot of money? Well, let's look and see how much money we need. This is the Family Budget Calculator by EPI.org, okay? So we live in St. Louis County, okay? We're in Ferguson. We actually have 3 kids, but I think the average family has like, what, 1.5 or something like that.
Right.
So, but I just put in for 2, you can see here, for 2 adults and 2 children living in St. Louis County, which I think most of our friends and family are in. Okay, $79,000. This is a calculator of how much the average family needs to live off of as a family household income. Now, mind you, this is covering housing, food, childcare, transportation, healthcare, other necessities, and taxes. This ain't talking about sports. This is not about vacations. This is not about weddings, funerals. What else do we? Birthday parties. Birthday parties can be expensive. Right. This isn't talking about anything other than what you absolutely need to survive. This is not talking about planning for retirement. This is making it $79,283. Okay? Maybe to some of you that looks like a lot. Maybe it looks like a little. But that's what we need. And we just saw that most people, we just talked about how most of us aren't making, those incomes were a lot lower that we saw before.
Right.
And even the highest paying industries, the highest paying jobs, rather, I should say, were only a little bit over this.
Right.
Like, so even they, nowadays, what they're saying is that with even people who have a 6-figure household income, they're still living paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. They're still living paycheck to paycheck because of inflation. Like that, the budget calculator, that wasn't talking about student loans, right? And we all know that student loans have been astronomical in recent years. So, so your options are go back to school or get another job. And what studies are showing and what we're seeing in the marketplace is that for the most part, like people are turning towards entrepreneurship because it's a way that you can make money on the side while you're still working full time.
Hard.
It's hard though. Most businesses fail within the first, what do they say, like 5 years?
Like 1 month.
And that's 1 month. But people are pursuing it because there's no cap on your income. You get compensated based on your competency in helping other people.
Your work. Yeah.
On your work effort. And so instead of spending, so many years working for someone else and having a cap on income, no matter how hard you work, you only get so much. People like the freedom of time and of income that entrepreneurship can bring to them. But that's income, so that's something to consider. Do you currently make enough? Are you able to, when we say, giving 10% away to something that is good and generous and worthwhile, that is in alignment with your values, and saving 10% for yourself, do you say like, there's no possible way I could set aside 20% of my income? And like 20% is the minimum. Like if you're saving 10% towards a rainy day in retirement, that might get you there depending on what that 10% is for you. But if you're with us, with most average Americans, with most middle income Americans, it might need to be more than 10% to actually ever be able to retire.
Right.
So if you're saying there's no way I could do 20% of my income, that means you have an income problem, maybe a budget problem, but probably an income problem, right? Mm-hmm. So it's something to consider when we're talking about income, right? Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about pandemic proofing your income is invest. But what do we mean when we say invest? Well, first, we need to invest in ourselves, right? Many of us don't invest in ourselves. We put ourselves last. Mm-hmm. And we kind of become martyrs. Like we think it's like the holy or righteous thing to do. Well, I don't have time to relax. I don't have time to take a vacation. I don't have time to, I don't have the money to, buy anything nice for myself. I only buy stuff for my kids. Or I don't have time to read a book. I'm not going to invest the time in myself, right, or invest the money in relaxing or learning something new. But we need to invest in ourselves. Mm-hmm. Do you want to say anything to that?
Nope.
So the first thing we need to invest in is us, in doing, like we said before, learning financial literacy, learning maybe a new skill, or learning a new industry, perhaps. If the industry that you're in right now isn't pandemic proof, but we also need to invest in things that are going to allow our money to make money for us. But here's the problem with investing. Here's the problem in what most of us have been taught about investing. Let me see if I can do this and show you. If I can. Okay, we're good. All right. So most of us think that we should invest our money like this. Let me see. This is not right. This is over.
Mulligan.
Hold on. Let me get this straight. How do you draw? Okay. Most of us are told, okay, conventional wisdom, I don't know. Most of us are told that we invest our money. We get a good, you go to school, you go to school, go to college. Okay, you got to go to college, get a good job. We're not taught about the degrees that actually make the most. We're not taught about the industries that actually
Are performing well.
that are performing well. Nobody saw the pandemic coming, so we're not taught about going to school and becoming an essential worker, right? So we're taught go to school first, get a good job. Something else we're not taught about is that back in the day, student loans were not nearly as significant. You could work and go to school and pay it off while you were in school.
Right. It was reasonable.
It was reasonable. Okay, so get a good job that's gonna give you a 401k. Here, I'm gonna start this over one more time.
You can get it, baby.
Okay, get a good job that's gonna give you a 401k. Okay, find a job that's gonna match you on that 401k, max it out, and just stock your money away there. Okay. Then once you have that good job and that's matching you and to with where you're putting into your 401k, then get a house. Okay. All right. And that's like the American dream, right? The house in the suburbs with the white picket fence and a little lassie dog outside and
elastic dog.
Lassie dog.
Lassie dog.
Not elastic.
Gotcha.
Okay, so
that is a pretty dog.
So that's what you do. You go to school, get you a good job, get that 401k that matches you, put your money there, and then get a house once you're established with your job. And then after all that's said and done, start working on your will, your final expenses, make sure that they can bury you. Okay, but here's what that actually is. It's upside down. Okay, this is the truth, and the truth can hurt sometimes, but it's upside down. When the winds of life blow, when the pandemic hits and you're not an essential worker, when the recession happens and there's layoffs, when somebody gets very sick and can no longer work, the winds of life blow, and because this is upside down, it blows away. Okay. So, but we're taught this about investing. What we don't realize is that our 401k or our 403b, which we had, or our IRA or Roth IRA or Roth 401k, those are investments. Those aren't savings. Investments are where your money is making money for you. And that's great. That's good, especially if somebody's matching you on that. There's tax advantages to them, but they're investments. Okay. The way that our government defines investment is that it's something that you can lose. It's something that is not safe from loss.
Requires risk.
So many of you guys know that I've gotten my license in life insurance. I have to get a separate license, another license, and able to sell securities, because these are investments and they can be lost. So it's a whole other level of licensure that you need, because it's riskier. It's something that's risky. But people think that they're saving for retirement, they're saving for a rainy day, they're saving for their future in investment vehicles. And that's not the best way, the most prudent way, the wisest way to save for retirement. Why? Because it can be lost.
Yeah.
Depending on what your age is.
And it gets lost.
Depending on what your age is, you experienced or you saw your parents or grandparents experience 2008, right? And you saw them lose 30, 40, 50% of their portfolio. That required people to work for years longer than they initially anticipated. Why? Because those are investments, not savings vehicles.
A lot of people were really thrown off because we're taught that it is a savings. And so it's like, well, how could I lose it? Never told that that's an option. Never told that that could be a thing.
Yeah, we're not taught. We're taught to put our money in those places, but when the winds of life come, it can be blown away. We're talking about being pandemic proof, right? We're talking about honoring God by being good stewards with our money, having good intentions, the right mindset, having our intention be generosity.
And in our lifetime, there's been what, 3 crashes?
There's been 2001, 2008,
and then the pandemic.
And the pandemic, where it was all over the place. And so So we're talking about, yeah, being good stewards.
It has recovered since the pandemic.
Yes, of course, but has it recovered? Because recovering, so from year to year, I'm not going to get deep into this because I don't want to confuse people, but just because in that year it went up however much percent doesn't mean that your portfolio overall did that, because you have to consider the losses in the past. So are you getting back up to that break even mark? Mm-hmm. And what would it have been if you never lost in the first place?
Right.
So there's 4 homes of money. Okay, let me see if I can do this. Can you see that? I don't want you to see I want to see in all my business. The homes of money are liquidity. I just Sharpie markered on my laptop screen, guys. This just happened. This just happened. Okay. The homes of money are liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax advantages. How do you determine where you're going to put your money? Do you have a strategy? You have off the table shaking camera. Do you have a strategy to determine where you will keep your money? Okay. You brought up earlier the parable of the talents. Do you want to share that?
Sure. So in the parable of the talents,
you gotta be ready in season and out of season, baby. Preach.
All right. So in the parable of the talents, a master leaves 3 of his servants with different sums of money. Mm-hmm. One servant he leaves with, was it 5 or 10? No, it's 10, mm-hmm. 5, and then 1. And then the servant with 10 goes out and he doubles his 10 into 10 more. And then the servant that was given 5 takes his 5 and he earns 5 more. And then the servant that's given 1 takes his and he buries his. When this master comes back, the master's like, hey, yo, how'd it go? And then the servant that had 10 and doubled his came back and said, hey, look, you gave me 10 and I made 10 more. And then the master said, well done, my good and faithful servant. And the second slave came and said, what?
No, I was just checking time.
Okay. Second slave came and said, look, you gave me 5, I made 5 more. And he said, all right, well done, my good and faithful servant. And then the last one came and said, hey, I knew that you were a harsh man. I knew that you were a harsh master. And I was afraid to invest my money, to invest what you gave me. So I buried it so that I could give it to you as you gave it to me. And he was rebuked pretty hardcore and he was cast out. And his 1 talent was given to the one who had 10 and then 10 more.
And what did the master say?
Don't ever do that again.
He said you could at least, I should have had it pulled up. I'm sorry.
Oh, he said you could have at least put it in a bank and earned interest on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about right now is invest. He's like, yeah, well, you could have invested it. Like,
well, yeah.
Right. But where do we invest our money? So the way that and I shouldn't even say invest there, but what is your way of determining what is a safe or a good vehicle to put your money, right? And so there's 4 homes of money, like I mentioned a moment ago: liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax advantage. So let's think about banks, right? You mentioned banks in that story. Banks, is your money liquid in a bank?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it safe?
Yes.
Yes, up to 250,000.
Right.
Is backed up, right?
But then you can just, if you get more than 250, you just take it to another bank.
Yeah, so it's safe. Does it earn a rate of return?
I mean,
it's like point something percent.
It's not really worth mentioning.
It's less than the rate of inflation is the issue there. Yeah. So if your money is sitting in a savings account in a bank, you're actually losing money with it sitting there over time. Is there a tax advantage to having your money in a bank?
Negatory.
Not really. It's just yeah. So what about a 401k? Or I'm getting high off these fumes, y'all. I'm gonna make it to the end of this presentation.
You might have to end it early.
So is your money liquid in a 401k or an IRA?
No.
No, you can't touch it until you're like 59 and a half in a 401k, right?
Liquidity, by the way, if you don't know, means access. Is it accessible?
Is it easily accessible? So say something happens, like someone falls ill and you have all these medical bills, or that person is no longer able to work. Can you access your money, immediately to take care of your needs?
Or is it frozen, as in not liquid?
Frozen.
or is it elusive like a gas?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Is your
Go.
money safe in a 401k or an IRA?
I mean, no.
No, like as we discussed, when it's at the will of the stock market, right? And that's it's kind of a gamble. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? It's out of your control. You don't know.
No.
Do you get a good rate of return in a 401k or an IRA?
Depends.
Yeah, it's like yes and no. Like yes, you get a good rate of return, but you have to also count your previous losses.
Right.
So, is there a tax advantage?
No.
Well, yes and no still.
If you do like a Roth IRA,
then
there is.
Yeah, a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k is better tax advantage, because the thing is when you're talking about just a regular 401k, you're taxed on the harvest, right? So it's the money, it's pre-tax dollars, and they tax you whenever you pull it out. Well, when you pull it out, what most
you're
people,
being taxed on more.
You're being taxed on more money, and most of us agree that taxes are only going to go up. So taxing today would be less taxes than taxing 10 years from now, especially with what probably is going to happen with these stimulus checks, right? Taxes are more than likely going to go up. So the taxes you're going to be taxed on are going to be taxed on higher later on.
In the future.
Also, you might be surprised to find yourself in a higher tax bracket, because you no longer will have children that you can count as dependents with your tax write-offs. You may have paid off your house by that point, which is your home is a tax write-off. And you may not, maybe if you are an entrepreneur, you were maybe if you're retired and you were taking business write-offs, well, now you're retired, so you don't have those write-offs anymore. So you might find yourself in a higher tax bracket. So yeah, it's taxing you on the harvest, and if you're going to be taxed, it'd be better to be taxed on the seed, like you are in a Roth, right? Because they're taxing it's after tax dollars, and they're not taxing the back end. And then what about with real estate? Is real estate liquid? No. So a lot of us, we pay down our house as fast as we can. We'll send extra mortgage payments to pay down our house faster. But that money isn't liquid. So in 2008, a lot of people lost their house, even though they had kept up with their payments, because that money wasn't liquid. The only way you can get money out of your home is to either refinance it or to sell it, right? Or you can rent it out, but then you still need a house to live in. So is your money safe in your house?
No.
Yes and no. For the most part, the housing market is pretty stable.
I'm thinking like in investing in real estate. You're talking about in our home.
Yeah, and the average person in their home.
Yes, it is safe. Yeah.
Yeah, but even when we're talking about investing in real estate, the real estate can go up and down, right? For the most part, it's stable, but you don't know for sure. It can go up and down, and it's a bigger risk, because if a tenant tears something up, or if there's a flood or something breaks down in the home, that can be additional expenses. But 2008 taught us that no, real estate is not a guaranteed safe place to have our money in. And as taxes go up, that can make a difference too. Do you get a good rate of return on real estate?
Depends.
Yeah, depends. Once again, yes and no. It depends on the neighborhood that you're in a lot of the time. And do you get a tax advantage with real estate?
Yes.
Yes, for the most part, yes and no. It's not going to break down all that, but there's capital gains and stuff like that. So it depends on if you're single, if you're married, how much it is. But yes, you do get some tax advantages with real estate, right? But there is one vehicle that meets, that's a yes in all four of these homes of money categories, right? And we're going to get into that a little bit here. So those are things to consider. I'm going to name those off again: liquidity, safety, rate of return, tax advantage. How do you determine how to make and save more money, how to pandemic proof your income? What do you do? What are your ways of, hey, Bree?
That was a while ago, babe.
Well, I just now saw it. Determining where to put your money and how to make more money. Okay, so next we're going to talk about, so far we've gone through.
She was marking on your screen.
Oh my gosh. Investigate your beliefs surrounding money. Intent. Set intention to your money. What are your intentions? Is it for greed? Is it for selfish gain? What are your intentions? And put intention behind your budget, right? Interest. Take an interest in financial literacy and learn how to have your money make money for you. Income. Do you have a budget problem or do you actually have an income problem? What are the best industries to make an income in? How can you make more income? Invest. Invest in yourself. Invest time and money and energy in learning what you need to do to pandemic-proof your income, to be a good steward, to have an abundance to share with others. Next, we're going to talk about, and this is our last pillar, inherit. Okay? Inherit what God has for you. We're children of God. If you love God and your desire is to please God and to be pleasing to the Lord, then you have an inheritance. Okay? God, you are God's child, and God is providing for you, like we read before in the scripture where Jesus is talking about being worried about what you need, what you'll eat, what you'll drink, what you'll wear. You have an inheritance, right? And the Bible also says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So two things there. You have an inheritance. You need to be open to receiving what God has for you. Don't let your mental blocks that we talked about before, right? The things that we investigated about what you believe about money, don't let those things keep you from what God has for you, wants to give you, right? Don't block that flow of your inheritance from the Lord. And also be prudent enough to, as the Bible says, leave an inheritance to your children's children. What does that take? What does that look like? We're not getting into systemic racism. We're not getting into all these different reasons. What's it called? Classism. That all these different reasons why there are secrets, that the wealthy have secrets. That we think of. That's at least how we think of them. We're not getting into all the reasons why some people are more disadvantaged than others. We're simply in this workshop talking about our own personal responsibility. As much as it depends on us, how can we be prudent? How can we be responsible? Of course, we all have different situations that we're coming from, and we can't cover all that right here. But as much as it depends on us, how can we be prudent and be good stewards of what we have, right? So inheritance. This is why it's so important to understand the 4 homes of money. The best vehicle to save in is actually, and this is going to be a surprise to a lot of people, we believe is actually insurance. So before we talked about that triangle that was upside down, right? And we said the wind blows it all away. So here, I needed that. So here's what it should actually look like. That's like a T. That doesn't.
That's okay. It works. So be able to read it.
Okay. Well, here, I'll do that.
There you go. Trying to think of something to do for you guys. Trying to think of a joke. Okay, there we go.
Okay, this is still kind of messy, but whatever. Insurance should be at the foundation. Really, the foundation should be Christ, values, beliefs, right? But I just was moving fast. But the base of our financial house should be insurance, so that when the winds blow, when we get sick, when the unexpected occurs, we have an insurance of our quality of life. We have an insurance that we can continue being generous. We have an insurance that we can continue creating opportunities, equal opportunity for our children and our children's children and our community. Okay, we need to ensure that we are able to. How'd you take my marker away?
Keep going. It's messing with me.
It's so distracting. You're family mark with the laptop again. We need to ensure that we can be on mission for Christ, no matter what, and not putting all of our money and our time and our thoughts towards making ends meet, but instead that all these things can go towards our mission. And then with out of our stability, we make our money make money for us. And we put our money towards a home. Okay? So that's really what other assets, right? But that's what it should look like. That's what our financial house should be built on: our principles, our values, insurance, okay, and investments and real estate, okay? Because if we didn't have the opportunity to have insurance, then we would completely have to depend on what?
Everyone else around us.
Everyone else around us. We have to depend on the government. We have to depend on the church. We have to depend on friends, family, and neighbors. That's not good stewardship.
Right.
That's not good. That's not prudent. When we can simply and easily ensure that we will be there when other people need us.
Yeah, and I want to be clear that needing the government, being in a situation where you need the government is okay.
Of course.
Being in a situation where you need the church is okay.
Of course.
But living your life where your plan is to rely on the government or on the church or on the well-being of other people, that's where we're falling into bad stewardship.
And the thing is, I don't even know if it's fair to call it bad stewardship, because we work with what we know and what we've been given. And a lot of us weren't given accurate information. Right. So we think that but now you know. So that's why we're here. That's why you're here. It's different. It's completely, most people are not willfully ignorant in this area.
Right.
We don't want to be. We want to protect ourselves. We want to protect our families, but we don't understand how. We were told that we were by doing these other things, and that wasn't accurate information.
Yeah, no.
The person who, and I should have actually had that article pulled up, the people who came up with the 401k, they've recently said they regret ever doing it. They regret overdoing it because people have come to believe that it is savings and come to rely on it, and it's not something that you can rely on.
Yeah, no.
So they themselves, and I'll post that later exactly who that is and the resource behind that, but it's true. They regret ever coming up with it because people are using it in a way that was never intended to be used for.
Yeah.
The government incentivizes us. So back to the 4 homes of money. Life insurance is liquid. It's your money. You can take it out when you need it for what you need it for, with no questions asked, and you set the repayment terms and time. It's safe. The life insurance industry has never crashed. It is backed up and backed up and backed up. It's actually the backbone of our economy.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but in a bank, they don't have to actually have your money in the bank.
Right.
You know, you go to the bank and you withdraw money, but if you have $250,000, $500,000 in a bank, that specific bank that you're banking at, if you go to that branch, they may not actually have it. Like, there's nothing actually backing it other than the idea that it's there.
Yeah.
And with insurance, it's actually backed by bonds, right?
we're not going to get into all that right now.
Okay.
Let's
but it's there.
It's safe. It's the life insurance industry has never crashed. And there are plenty of highly rated insurance companies that your money is going to be there, and it's backed by. They back each other up. It's the easiest way to explain it. You earn a rate of return. There are mutual companies where you earn dividends on the cash value, your money that you're accruing there. There's also something there's also a strategy you can use called indexing with your life insurance policy, where your money is linked, not in, but linked to the stock market. So when the stock market is up, you earn more on your money. Your money makes more money for you. And when the stock market is down, you don't lose a dime. So there's people who, instead of having their money, their real money, their hard-earned money, the money that they need to be there when they retire, they need to be there in an emergency, rather than putting it in a 401k, they put their money in an indexed life insurance policy. And when 2008 hit, they didn't lose a dime.
Nothing.
They didn't lose anything. So
we're not speaking hypothetically here. Like, there are people who had their money linked to the market, who in 2008 and 2001, during the coronavirus drop, they didn't lose a cent.
So for that reason alone, it greatly outperforms a 401k or an IRA because you're never losing. You're only gaining. It's like if you stepped into a casino, right? Because most of us are really concerned about safety. When I talk to most people, they're like, I just want my money to be somewhere safe and I want it to make money. Like I want it to earn interest. But we also all kind of have this thought in our mind that the stock market is kind of like gambling.
Right.
Which is why most people don't believe in trading. Most people think, I'll be in my 401k, but I'm not going to trade in the stock market.
Which is crazy because it's the same
risky
thing.
But it's actually the same thing.
It's actually more
less
risky
in your control in a 401k, right? And so, but think of it this way. These index life insurance policies, it's like going into a casino, because most of us think of the stock market as a gamble. Going into a casino and they tell you you can play all day. Worst case scenario, you'll walk out of here with what you came in with.
That'd be crazy.
That's 2008. They went into the year, gambled in the stock market, right? Didn't lose anything though.
Right.
Left with what they had.
Well, yeah.
Including the gains, the earnings that they had the previous years, not just the money that they put in out of their income. But what was also protected in life insurance is the money that was earned over the years.
Right.
Okay. Huge difference. So liquid, there when you need it, safe, earned rate of return, is tax advantage. And that's why we said the government incentivizes us
to take care of ourselves,
to protect ourselves and our families. Because otherwise it's more of a burden on the government, it's more of a burden on the citizens, right? And none of us want to be I don't even like using that word because, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but like no one wants to be a burden.
Can I just say what the tax advantage is?
Sure.
No tax.
Oh, okay.
That's the tax. A tax advantage is like, oh, that's a lower rate. No, it's not taxed.
So it's not taxed when you put the money in, like it's actually tax write-off.
Yeah.
It's not taxed when you take the money out while you're living. Okay, when you use your cash value,
alive.
When you use your cash value, you and take a policy loan, that's not taxed.
And then when you die,
and when you are called home,
your family gets it.
It passes on. What you put in blossoms in money and passes on to your family, tax-free. Tax-free. That's not true of real estate. That's not true of IRAs, 401ks, all these other things.
People have used and are using life insurance policies
as a retirement vehicle,
to fund college, to fund business startups, to fund the retirement, to fund vacations, to fund all kinds of things, tax-free.
But the most important part about life insurance is not even that. The most important part is the protection. And I just want to briefly share, because I've shared my mom's story in functional faith, and I'm going to be sharing my dad's story as well. But just briefly, when my parents were in their early 40s, both of them became disabled. We were a healthy family. Neither one of them had any other diagnoses. Neither one of them have any other diagnoses now. But when they were in their early 40s, my dad, on his lunch break, came home and fell on our front porch, and he became a quadriplegic.
Yeah.
He was the sole breadwinner at that time, the sole income earner in our home, because my mom was staying home with my brother, who, when he was in middle school, was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Perfectly healthy kid, right? And then my mom had 2 brain aneurysms. One year and the other a month after our wedding in 2013, about 2 years apart. Completely unexpected. So what did they expect? They expected for at least my father to be able to work for his entire, working years, income earning years, and to be able to collect Social Security and whatever, from his 401k or whatever he had at that time, right? They expected my mom to eventually be able to return to work and earn her own money and pay into Social Security all those years. They expected to at least be able to depend on Social Security and whatever other savings they had.
Can't depend on it.
But then their income earning years were cut short. So it happens. It happens to people. You know someone who it's happened to. And God forbid it happened to you. But we protect our cars. We're not even allowed to drive home without insurance.
Right.
We protect our homes.
We protect our phone.
You better believe we gotta protect that phone. My doggone, I think it was spiritual warfare. My cell phone screen broke once a month for like the past 6 months.
Joke.
Never again will I not have insurance on my phone.
Right.
But
That's dumb.
it's insane. But we protect these things. How much more important is our lives, right? How much more important are our lives? My parents will tell you, and they've shared, they will be sharing on our in this group. They didn't have life insurance. And what's interesting about life insurance that most people don't know is that not only it's not just death insurance, it's not just for final expenses, it's not just so somebody can bury you. To ensure your quality of life while you're living.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, life insurance policies can have living benefits, meaning that if something happens where you have a critical, chronic, or terminal illness, this is about pandemic proofing your income. This is about honoring God with your income. Okay, so I'm just reminding you of what we're talking about. Pandemic proofing, life proofing your income. If something were to happen, if you got coronavirus, if you got, whatever it might be, if you get something that's critical, terminal, or chronic, then it can pay out. And I said coronavirus, I'm not sure if it would for coronavirus, probably if it became, I don't know. But anyway, but if it's critical, terminal, or chronic, okay, it would pay out 90%. 90% of the death benefit. So in my parents' case, say they had a $500,000 policy. The average 34-year-old woman can get a $500,000 term policy that would last for 30 years for about, what is it, like $30 a month? They would have gotten a payout of $400,000, more than $400,000 while they were living. That's what we say when we're talking about protecting your quality of life, ensuring your quality of life. Okay. Social Security is actually paid currently by the current workers. So like what you and I pay into Social Security today is being given to the people who are currently on Social Security today.
Yeah.
So we don't know that that's going to be there for us so that's also not a place to.
Math would say that it is not going to be there for us.
We don't know, but no one knows. That's also not something that we can depend on. So that's not something we can factor into our retirement, to our later years, something that will take care of us.
Mm-hmm.
And for my mom, she shared it's because she only paid into it for a few years. She doesn't get enough to live off of. She doesn't get anything close to a living wage off of that.
Right.
And she has nothing else. So this is about being a good steward. Another family that we're going to be talking to, who are going to share their story from the other side of it, the other side of the coin, are Dustin and Kenyon Frampton. They live on the south side of Chicago. When he was 38, he had a stroke. But guess what? They had a life insurance policy and they received those living benefits. And so now he's able to have quality of life even after that. His family is able to still have dignity and not rely on others because he did have that. So like it's just insane the lack of financial literacy that we have, and we need to have this literacy to be good stewards, to pandemic proof our income, to know we're going to have income no matter what happens. A pandemic, a sickness that happens to us, a crash, anything. But even the wealthy, we think the wealthy have all the secrets, but even a lot of people, celebrities, they don't know. Heath Ledger, Larry King, Michael Jackson, like if Michael Jackson wouldn't have had the Beatles, what do you call that, their collection, if he didn't have ownership of that, he would have died with $400 million in debt. It's just insane. Like, how is that even possible? Lenny Bruce, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, these people didn't have adequate life insurance. Even with all their wealth, they didn't have adequate life insurance. So like their families would have been left with nothing, or some of them were. Paul Walker, he didn't have it either, which is just so sad. And he passed away with his financial advisor in the seat next to him. So sometimes our financial advisors, we've been talking to so many people who they say, I have a financial advisor, but sometimes our financial advisors just don't know the power of life insurance and how it's just a Swiss Army knife. It can provide income in retirement. It can provide protection. It can do all these different things. You can be your own bank, and not have to bank on the banking system, not have to bank on the market doing well, but to bank on yourself. Bank on security, having security and having what you need to be there. And we should be anticipating that anticipating God's provision, anticipating that we're going to have a long life and that we're going to need lifetime income. We should be anticipating having quality health care and not having to depend on whatever the government says through Medicare is going to be our health care. We should anticipate our not just our family having enough to bury us with, but creating generational wealth that can help to close the poverty gap.
Right.
We should anticipate serving widows and orphans. We should anticipate having a savings account, an abundant savings account that we can plan on to be there. So pandemic proofing our income is we haven't had our thing up this whole time. Pandemic proofing our income. It's about two different things, right? We said making more and saving more. I think we've explained why it's important to do both of those things, right? So something that we want to suggest or offer to you all is to what do you take away? What's your next step after this? After we've had this discussion on money and spirituality, we want to suggest that you connect with us because we've partnered with people who their goal, their mission, their vision, their passion in life, their expertise in life has been to make a formula for making and saving more money. We showed how the industries, or the degrees that make the most, engineering and actuary, math, and all these things, that most of us, it's not an option. Let's just be frank. For most of us, we're not going to go to school and get degrees in one of these forms of engineering and math and science and things like that. So that's not an option. Most of us are in the degrees or the fields that make the least. They've who we've partnered with is called PHP Agency, and their mission is to reach middle income, diverse, multicultural demographics with financial literacy. They do leadership development and teach people how to earn more income by doing what? By serving other people with financial literacy. Like that's it. Like I'm not like, I don't even know a better way to put that. To help people to understand that this 401k, house, insurance, this is upside down. I put will, but that's people don't even think insurance. People just think, oh, my will. I'll do that at the end. And it might involve some final expense insurance, right? What we do is we teach people that this will blow away when the winds of life come, and that instead, his dramas. We teach people instead to build your house. And I started here, but like I said, really underneath it all, undergirding everything is Christ, our values, our principles, which we get from Christ, right? Then insurance, then our investments, then real estate.
And other assets.
You just gotta say that. So yeah. So if you are wanting, if you saw what was it? The EPI, the family budget calculator, and you can go in there yourself and plug in for your family. What is it that we need to make? Now that's not what you want. That's not including, what do we say? Weddings, funerals, birthday parties, vacations, anything other than the absolute necessities. Debt. Right? Any debt, any form of debt, student loans, right? When something breaks down. So you identified through this, I have to make more income. Talk to us. You can do it part-time, serving other people with financial literacy, serving other people by helping them to build wealth, serving other people by helping to close the poverty gap, serving other people by creating equal opportunity for people who are middle income, low income, multicultural. Okay. If that's like, yes, that resonates with me, I want to earn more income while helping other people to change their life and change the trajectory of their family and change the world, then talk to us. Like, please, like, it's exciting and it's fun. And, most people think about like insurance and financial services as being like really stale and boring. But this company it's different. It's very different. It's exciting. They like to have fun. Mm-hmm. They like to compete. they they enjoy competition. Um, but it's healthy competition is the goal. It's just to inspire and to encourage and to motivate one another and hold each other accountable, right? And it's very diverse. The CEO is Iranian. The CDO is Filipino. Most of the people in it, most of the demographic of the company is Latino women and African Americans. It's like it's super multi.
It's a different culture.
It's
for
very
sure.
different. It's very multicultural. I told Keith whenever we went to the convention, I was listening to Tim Tebow speak, and first off, that boy can preach. Just that was a side note. That was just for free. But I told him we were sitting there. I'm looking around. I'm like, I've never been in a room with this many people of color that are millionaires, multiple six-figure earners that are helping other people,
right?
That have a heart to see the lives of other families change. It just was different. It was a different vibe. It was a different energy. And it's Christian. The CEO and the CDO both are unapologetically men of faith, people of faith, and who want to serve people with love and generosity. Yeah. And so if that's you, if you're like, I know it, I see it, I need to earn more income, talk to us about this. It's different than you would expect. It's very simplistic. I'm not going to say it's easy.
No, yeah.
It's not easy, but it's simplistic. They've made it very simplistic, and they partner with you to pave the path to change your life and the lives of others. And if you're like, no, I my income is good, like my income is solid, then high five. Because you're in a much better position than most people, especially since the pandemic, with over 50 million Americans filing for unemployment. So you're in and other people just kind of saying, life is short.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pivot. I want to do something that gives me more of a feeling of purpose. But if you're like, I love what I do, I feel fulfilled, and I feel like I'm in my purpose. I know that this is a space God has me, desires for me to be in. But like I see what you're saying. I see that my financial house is upside down. I want to build it first on values and principles. And I want to build it first in Christ. Then I want to ensure my quality of life. I want to ensure that I'm closing the poverty gap. I want to ensure that I'm creating equal opportunity for my family. I want to ensure that I'm leaving an inheritance to my children and my children's children, like the Bible says. If that's you, if you want to turn your financial house right side up, then contact us as well. There's so many different strategies and ways that we can protect your income, that we can protect your quality of life, we can protect your legacy. Okay, and this is good stewardship. It's prudent. It's holy work. Yeah. It's a holy endeavor. When you look in the mirror of your money and you see something that is out of alignment, what do? Acknowledge it. Be thankful that it was a mirror, and then forgive it and turn away. Just gently turn away. And then when you look in the mirror and out of a right heart and intention to serve God with what you have financially, out of that energy in that space, let's connect.
Yeah.
Let's connect and let's do. Okay, thanks, Mimi, Marlene. Let's connect and let's do. Let's take the next step towards the financial freedom that God has for you and your inheritance from God. Yeah. So that's it. That's what we have for you. That was a longer video from us, but this was a workshop, not just a quick reel or live. So we hope that it was a blessing to you. And let us know if you have any questions. You can leave them in the comments. You can DM us. We are looking forward to connecting to you.
Yep, that's right.
Connecting to you, with you.
Either way.
You got what I was saying. All right. That is it. Thank you. If you watched us all the way through, you the real MVP. Thanks for sitting with us. I'm just babbling out. This was fun. I enjoyed this. Did you enjoy this? I enjoyed this.
Go in peace and presence.